Okay, welcome, you guys. I am excited. I say that every single episode, but I am because you guys know how passionate I am about this and just how amazing it is. And I am getting to the point where I am having to reach out now to complete strangers, and it's my favorite thing ever. And people are just so willing to say yes, like these guys, and I'm so excited. So I have Shaun and Lanette here with me, and I'm excited. It's a couple's perspective of adoption and how they fell upon it and came upon it. And I am so excited to hear their experiences with their children and everything that has brought them to where they're at in their life right now. So I will go ahead and turn the time over to them. I'll let them introduce themselves and go ahead and take a listen. Go ahead, guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having us. We are both huge adoption advocates, so we're happy that we can, help in any way that we can. I'll introduce us a little bit, and then I think we'll talk a little bit about our adoption experiences. So we're Shaun and Lanette. I'm originally from Denver, and Lanette is originally from Oregon. We met at school here in Utah, where we live now, and never imagined that we would stay in Utah, but here we are 14 years later, and Utah's our home, and it's great. We love it. We love the community that we live in. We love living so close to the mountains, and we love the outdoors, so that's awesome. Let's see. We were married in 2007, and about a year after we were married, we realized that we wanted to start a family, and so we talked about it a lot. We had started trying to get pregnant, and realized that it wasn't happening, and pretty quick. I don't know. You can jump in and add. Yeah.
Okay. So pretty quickly we saw that it wasn't happening like we thought it would. My mom and her mom, and all the way back, are very fertile women. So honestly, I kind of expected to be a very fertile woman. But when we didn't get pregnant very quickly, I think we both kind of knew, even though it hadn't been that long, we knew that there was something going on. And one thing that Shaun skipped was when we were engaged, we talked about how we wanted lots of kids, and we wanted to adopt lots of kids. We wanted to birth kids, like anything. But we both actually felt really strongly like we should adopt for a long time, like before we even knew each other. It was something we both felt like it was part of our life path. So.
But we both had just assumed that we would have biological children, and then when we were more like financially stable, that we would probably go the adoption route. But it didn't work out like that, and so we went down the fertility road for a couple years with no success. And
when we had our last fertility treatment, I was positive that I was pregnant because I just felt really strongly like there was this little girl waiting to join our family, and we're spiritual people, and so it was like this spiritual feeling where I really felt strongly like this little girl is coming, she's coming soon. And I was so surprised when I wasn't pregnant that round. But after the shock wore off, I looked at Shaun and said, we need to go and get approved to adopt because there's a baby girl waiting to join our family, and we need to find her.
And we had been like talking about adoption along the fertility road. And so it wasn't like, oh, what do we do next? We knew that there were like, different agencies. We'd have to go through an orientation process, a home study process, all of those things. We were educated about those things. But the timing worked out that we found out she wasn't pregnant. The agency we were going to work with had their monthly orientation the next day. And so we went that day. We gave it a day to think about, and the Friday they required a deposit, and we put our deposit down the Friday. And so we just completely changed gears from focusing on fertility to let's see what we can do and see what happens. And so that was the summer of 2010.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, we were pretty young.
Yeah.
I think most of the time people adopt when they're a little older. And I know that we are different because we both felt really strongly about adoption before any of the infertility problems. And so I know that's not really the path that everybody has, but for us, it was a really quick, easy decision. We felt really strongly about it, and we got approved really fast because of that.
And we know, like, we've had a lot of couple friends that, you know, one person in the relationship feels really strongly like adoption could work out in their family while the other is concerned. And you really have to be on the same page as a couple for adoption to work. And so it was nice that we both had, you know, had previous feelings even before we were married, I think, that we would have children that were adopted. And so we were just ready. We jumped in, and we were both like type A personalities. Like,
we're both kind of crazy.
You tell me what I need to do, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it as fast as I can and the best that I can. And so from start to finish, the approval process, like, it was like 5 weeks.
Might have been less.
Yeah. And we have friends that, you know, it drags on for months and months and months with visits.
And we understand it's hard and it's different for other people. We've
been approved other times that it took a lot longer. So, but that time we were just gung-ho, ready to go. So we got approved, and we were told, you know, put yourselves on social media, talk with people a lot. And randomly, I put a post on LinkedIn in a group that I was in saying we were hoping to adopt. I know, LinkedIn of all places. And within a day, we had got contacted by a woman that she had a foster daughter that was living with her who was pregnant and considering adoption for her daughter. And again, Lanette said, like Lanette mentioned, we were really young, and it was really good for us to go through this process where we got to meet her and build this genuine relationship with her. In the end, she decided not to place with us. She decided to parent.
And we're still friends with her.
Yeah, we still follow each other on Facebook, so we have some contact. But yeah, so it was a good, I guess, lesson in adoption, and it helped us understand the expectant parent side a lot more than we had really put a lot of consideration into. So we're grateful for that experience. It gave us some empathy, and it was good. A few months passed, and it was early 2011 at this point. And one day we got an email from an expectant couple, and they
asked us about 26 questions, and they were like deep questions that you need to write an essay for.
Like philosophical almost.
Yeah.
And again, type A personalities, we weren't going to be like 2-word answers. So we stayed up that whole night, and we wrote like paragraph answers for each one, and we sent it the next morning. A few days passed, and our caseworker, Kim, who you had on a couple times ago, she reached out to us and said, hey, there's this expected couple. They're
the ones that we answered questions for.
Yeah. And they want to get to know you in person. And they want to meet a couple people before they make their decision. And so on Valentine's Day of 2010, we met with them, or 2011, sorry. Yeah, we met with them in person under the idea that this was a kind of get to know you before they make a decision in a couple days. And it was great. They were really sweet. We had an hour-long conversation. It went really well. We felt really comfortable, and our hour was just about up. And the expectant mother said, well, I have one thing for you before we finish up. And she walked over to the corner, and she brought over this box and set it on the table. And she said, the real reason we brought you here today was to tell you that we've already chosen you. And in the box, there were baby clothes and a blanket that her and her mom had made. And then they brought out, you know, cookies and all of these things. And, you know, it was a tear fest on all sides because it was like real. It was awesome.
Yeah. And after that, we went out to dinner with the expectant parents and their parents. And really, I think that kind of laid the groundwork for the open adoptions that we really strive for with our kids.
Yeah. So a couple weeks passed. We had some friends that threw a baby shower for Lanette, and the expectant mother came.
Yeah,
it was for both of them. Yeah. And they showered them both with the appropriate things, whether that's pampering while you're pregnant type of things or clothes for your future baby, right? And it was awesome to build a relationship with them. We met with them a few times. We went to an ultrasound with them. Over breakfast at Neater's one morning, we decided what we would name her and all of these things. It was it was just a sweet experience. And a couple weeks later, she was born, and it was a kind of a rude awakening to parenthood. Just a few minutes after she was born, one of the nurses said that she was having problems breathing, and they had to check her out. And then it was determined that she needed to have surgery, and she had to go to Primary Children's Hospital. And within, an hour of her birth, she was in an ambulance being taken to a different hospital. And again, this was our first experience. We're trying to balance like the emotions of now being parents and having this open adoption relationship with birth parents and grandparents. And
I'm sure we didn't balance.
It was hard.
Yeah.
And all these emotions of like this child who we love so much and have been waiting for, and now we don't know what her destiny or future looks like. And so our daughter's birth mom and her mom stayed at the hospital. We followed the ambulance with grandpa and went to Primary Children's Hospital. And, over the next couple of days, things kind of worked out. She was released from the hospital, or her birth mom was released from the hospital and was able to come, and both birth parents were able to come. And then we were trying to, work on this balance of a relationship between how do we, go from no baby and we had this relationship to now there's our daughter, and how do we help her birth parents still feel or have the connection they need to have, because it didn't happen like we thought it would. We weren't planning on this emergency transfer to a different hospital. And
yeah, her birth mom wanted to like feed her first bottle and change her first diaper and have all these experiences, and she didn't get to do it. None of us got to do it. It was really sad, but
it worked out. After a few days, they signed papers, and we officially became parents for the very first time. And it was so sweet, and so much credit to her birth mom and her parents, like together over the last 10 years, kind of helped us forge this great open adoption relationship where we see each other really regularly. They live, 40 minutes away or so, and come for holidays and birthdays, and we go to their home for dinner. And but because of them, we were able to kind of figure out that balance, and it set the tone for the rest of our family.
Yeah, they're great. And so after our daughter was born, we decided to put our name on the list to wait to adopt when she turned 1. And so we got approved, and we just waited for quite a while. Did you want to? Okay. So we were waiting for about 18 months, which I know so many couples wait for much, much longer, but it was hard to wait for that long. It gives me a lot of sadness to think about families waiting longer. But we waited for about 18 months, and then we bought our first house and spent all of our money. And a couple weeks later, we got a phone call that there was a baby boy born. He was born a little early, and so his birth parents hadn't found a family yet. And so they were looking at us, and we went to meet them.
It was
crazy. Like
we got a phone call that morning saying, he'd been born this morning, and by 2:00 in the afternoon, they had arranged a meeting between us and them that night. Lanette made 24 cookies. I bought some flowers,
and they were meeting with another couple too. And so we went to meet them. We were terrified, but when we walked into the room, it was a really neat experience. We just felt like we were walking into this family reunion where we knew them. I don't know, it was amazing. We just like already loved them, and that sounds kind of weird, but it's really true. We just knew them and loved them, and that relationship was so
instantaneous.
It was amazing.
That night, I mean, we felt so confident that they were going to choose us. I got home and I like started setting up a crib, and she's like, "You're gonna jinx us, like this, don't do it yet." And but like at like midnight that night, the birth father called and said, "Hey, we know it's late, but we wanted to call and let you know that we feel really strongly that you're his parents, and we're so happy that we found you." And we were overcome. We called our parents in the middle of the night and told them they're having a grandson tomorrow morning. And the next morning we went and we signed papers, and had a baby.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so we had 2 kids, and the agency that we used for our first 2 kids had a 2-kid maximum. And so we were done. We had 2 kids and we felt really, really blessed and lucky. And we figured that was it for growing our family, and it was time to move on to other things together.
Yeah.
Yeah, your turn.
Yeah. So we tried to think about how we would talk about each of our children. And so after we had the 2, it was great. About a year passed, and I had someone that worked with me who approached me and said, I met this expectant mother. She's already decided that she's going to place her baby, and she hasn't picked a family yet. And I told her about you guys, and would you be okay meeting her? And we're like, okay, this wasn't really in the plans, right? But we said sure, and we went out to lunch. She came over for a birthday party a couple of days later, and I felt really good. So we got approved. And as we started working with her, we realized that she had already started working with an agency. And the more and more we learned about her particular situation and the agency she was working with, it just didn't feel right.
We really, really like her. But
A lot.
It wasn't feeling right.
We felt like some of the choices the agency were making weren't very ethical. And yeah, there's a lot to that story. So we decided it wasn't the best. It wasn't going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
And we were okay with that. Like it felt right.
Yeah, it felt right.
And it was sad.
Yeah.
But it felt okay. But we had been approved to adopt. We knew that we could host a profile on adoption.com. And so we were like, well, if we're supposed to have a baby, then we'd just throw it
out. We were already approved.
See what happens. Yeah. And so we put it up. We went on vacation. We went to Disneyland with the 2 kids. And on our last day in California, we woke up like just exhausted to an email from a social worker or from a caseworker from a new agency in Utah. And she said, hey, we've been working with this expectant couple. We don't have a lot of families right now, and she doesn't really match with it. They don't really match with any of our couples. So we looked on adoption.com and found you guys, and they want to meet you tomorrow. And we're like, well, we're in California. And she said, well, we can do it on Skype. This is all before Zoom, right?
Yeah, this was back in 2015, so it was very weird.
And we're like, okay, that's fine. And so we drove home from California, and like we got home, we put the kids down for a nap, and we jumped on the Skype. And it was like the weirdest experience. Like it was so hard to read emotion and feeling. Like we've never done anything like that online. And so by the end of our 20-minute conversation or 30-minute conversation, it was like, I have no idea how that went.
I was pretty sure they hated us. Yes.
Yeah. So we were just like, well, if it works out, that'd be awesome, but I don't know what to think.
We didn't have high expectations.
And a few days passed, and coincidentally, it was our anniversary, and we got a phone call, and they told us they picked us. And we were like a little bit shocked, and it was also very excited, right? All of the emotions. And we really quickly met with them in person a few times. And we went bowling with them. I'm like, are you sure she'd be bowling? You're due in like 2 weeks. And
it was fine.
It was fine. And then our third baby, our son, was born. And yeah, I mean, it was, every adoption is a roller coaster of emotions, and you never know quite how things are going to work out. And so there were moments where we're like, this still feels like it might not work out, until we were at the hospital, and we spent some time with our son and his birth mom, and there was lots of hugs, lots of tears. And as hard as it was, we all knew it was the best thing and the right thing for him. And so we added our third and what we thought was our final baby to our family.
Definitely last one. Definitely done.
Right.
Yeah. And so we were definitely done, and time went on for a few years, right? And so last, I guess it was 2019 now. So end of 2019 started coming, and our youngest was starting to get to that preschool age where I was like, okay, we're not going to have kids at home. I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I was trying to decide what I wanted to do next. And I wanted to go to grad school. And so I was starting to look at all these programs, and there were two I was really interested in, but I just couldn't figure out which one felt right. And it was really frustrating because I think I kind of knew what the confusion meant. And I was terrified to talk to Shaun about it because then it would be like set in stone, right? But finally I went and talked to Shaun and said, you know, I think we should get approved to adopt one more time. I really don't think there's another baby for our family. I think we're done, but I think we should get approved again. And that's probably why I can't figure this out, just because we have to try one more time, see if anything happens, and then I'll apply for grad school.
And then I was like, thank goodness, because I've been having the same feelings, and I did not want to be that guy that's like, hey, we're supposed to have another baby. And oh yeah, remember all your plans for the future? We're putting those on hold, right? I wasn't going to be, I didn't want that to be our situation.
Yeah.
And so immediately we were on the same page again, and it felt right.
Yep. So we got approved, and truthfully, I really felt like we were supposed to get approved so that we could talk more about adoption. We talked a lot about adoption with our first couple of kids, just over time as they got older, and we began thinking more about finding that balance between protecting their privacy and their stories, trying to figure out how much you can talk about your kids' adoptions, right? Ethically, it's a hard balance to find. And so I kind of just stopped for a long time because it was easier to just not talk about it at all. And I know that talking about it is also really important because it helps a lot of other families. And so I felt pretty chastened, like, I think we're supposed to get approved, so I start talking about this again. And so we got approved, and
it was like,
it was our fastest, it was our shortest wait time we've ever had after getting approved. It was just a few weeks, and we were running a race together. Shaun's a great runner, and I am an amateur runner who loves trying. And so we went down to St. George, and we're doing a trail run together. And it was right before the COVID pandemic started. It was the last fun thing we did. And so we started this run.
Still, no, just kidding.
Probably. We were starting this run, and we started getting text messages from this expectant mother who was looking at placing her baby with us. And so it was not a fast race because we were very focused on something much more important.
I'm running right behind her, like texting and like trying to run, and like
it wasn't
rocks.
hard for you.
No, but it was
fine.
still.
I'm not fast.
I was like, hey, let's stop real quick and take a selfie and send it to her. Hey, we're in a race right now.
We did. Yes.
We did.
But yes, we started talking with her, and by the time we finished that race, I think we both kind of were feeling like this has a fair chance of happening. I mean, and so the next weekend, things had started to shut down across the country and the state, but we went, it's a couple hours away, but we went and met with these expectant parents. One thing that's interesting with all of our kids is that their birth fathers were all involved in their adoptions as well. So we've had contact and relationships with all four of our kids' birth dads as well as their birth moms. But yeah, so we went and met with this couple, and
it felt so good again.
Very organic, and
yeah. And so we continued developing a relationship, mostly through, Facebook Messenger, because we're a little bit further away from each other. We were discouraged from, leaving our houses. And so
we did a little bit.
Yeah, but it was hard.
It was a different.
But it was good that we were able to text or message each other pretty frequently and answer and ask lots of questions. We got to know each other really well.
And one really cool thing, so when baby was born, he's a boy too. We have our daughter, and then we have 3 sons. And so when our baby boy was born, his birth dad was super tired, and after his birth was just emotionally spent. And so he was like, I need to go home and get some sleep. And birth mom said, well, that's fine, but I don't want to be here alone. So I'm going to call Shaun and Lanette and have them come and be with me. And luckily the hospital let us in. They did tell us we could not leave our room. If we left our room, we would be kicked out because of COVID, but they let us in, which was so nice. And so we got to spend 2 or 3.
It's 2 nights.
2 nights and 3 days with the birth mom, baby, all 4 of us together. It was really amazing. It was a really
It was sweet.
time.
The hospital gave us our own room, but the 4 of us were just together the whole time.
Yeah, together in the room.
Just talking, and it was so good for our relationship. And, you know, she got discharged, papers had been signed, and we're like, well, we'll take you home. We're here. And so we took her home and met up with our son's birth father and then her mother, so grandma, and spent an hour or so with them. So everybody got to, you know, give hugs and kisses and stuff. And you know, it's been awesome since. He's now almost 8 months old. And we have a really good relationship with him.
Yeah, and we've been really lucky. We have lots of grandparents involved. My older kids love to brag about how many grandparents they have, because really all of their grandparents have adopted all of the kids, if that makes any sense. And so like our daughter's birth mom's parents have adopted all the kids, so their grandma and grandpa, all of them, and then we have all of these grandparents.
So our kids literally have 16 grandparents, and they get so showered with love. It is insane. And for us, like over these 10 years that we've been, you know, involved in the adoption world, it's been this, you know, up and down of just trying to figure out how to have the best relationships. But I mentioned earlier, all of the birthday parties, everyone's invited to. Holidays, we usually see everybody. And so, I mean, and we go to, you know, grandparents' houses all over the place. There's one set of grandparents that we travel with. They live in DC. And so we've been to California with them. We've been to Florida with them and out to DC in their home. And it's just been so sweet. All along the way, our number one priority has been our kids. And we've felt like, you know, if our kids feel loved and they feel safe, then the more people that love them, the better. And so we're going to do whatever we can to foster all the relationships possible. And so now we have this beautiful village that's helping raise this family of 4 adopted children. And it's awesome. We love it.
We feel really blessed.
So what questions do you have for us? I
Oh
mean,
my gosh. Okay. So holy cow. My absolute favorite thing is like the relationships that you guys have. Like that is insane. And that is so rare. Obviously, I'm an international adoption, so it's a little bit different there. And I don't know who my biological father is. Probably never will until I die in the next life. Like, it's like, and the greatest thing ever, and I was trying not to cry, is when you were saying, Shaun, like, you just want your kids to feel loved. You just want them to have a safe place. And I feel like that's even like with my own biological children. Is exactly what it is, and it does not matter where that love comes from. Like, and to have so many grandparents, I'm like, dang, birthday parties would be amazing. It's like, look at
Christmas is just like
They're spoiled. They have lots of love.
right. So I was gonna ask. So were all the couples that gave up their babies or placed? I always say it wrong, even though I'm an adoptee. Are they all still together?
Not all of them.
Okay.
All of the boys' birth parents are together.
Wow, that's crazy. So were they? My guess is they were all fairly young, right?
just in different stages of life. All of them.
It's kind of all across the board. Yeah.
Oh, see, that's cool. That's crazy. See, yeah, they're all not like.
I mean, I think the underlying theme for all of them was they didn't feel like they could provide the best for their children, you know?
At that point.
Yeah. And so
that makes sense.
While it's a really difficult decision, you know, they were putting their children first.
That's awesome.
And
no.
We, you know, that selfless decision has blessed our lives 4 times over. And I mean, every day, but we're grateful for it every day.
I love it. That's wonderful. And one thing I've noticed with every single interview I've done, no matter what faith or religion people are who I interview, God 100% is involved, like 100%. And it's crazy because with my parents adopting me, my guess is you guys are Latter-day Saints, right? Because that's what I am. My parents, like, bam, it went so fast. And my mom just knew. And then when I went to seek out my birth family, same thing. 3 months later, international, all through social media. It's just crazy. So 100%, God knows what he's doing. And even with those babies that didn't come to your family, like, it's just crazy because that's 100% God and the Holy Ghost just being like, nah, it's not right. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much with each one, there was like kind of like a potential adoption situation before them that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And in the moment, it's really hard. Like you're putting so much faith in, and I'm trying to do everything right, and I know that this is what I want to be doing and what's right for my family, and then it doesn't work out, and it can be really hard to not get discouraged.
Exactly. No, exactly. What else was? There's one other question I had that I was going to ask. Shoot, now I can't think of it. Give me a minute. Maybe I'll think about it.
Okay.
It'll come back to me. It drives me crazy when that happens. It was right there and then it's gone. I'm trying to, let's see. I don't even know.
Was it about just the relationships or any?
Oh, no, it was a question more for you guys. So I like to ask this too, because I mean, I've interviewed all different walks of life, you know, parents. Are all of your kids Caucasian? Or are they?
Technically, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
People don't realize that.
One of them is half Latino.
Oh, very cool.
But he's very fair skinned.
I was gonna say my kids are half Latina because I'm the one and my husband's white, and you would never know like some of their features, but they're probably like kids.
Yeah, you know, I think I'm sure you'll put a picture of us with this. But to look at us, you would never really know. In fact, we get a lot of people who say you can't tell that any of your children are adopted.
But if you look at their birth parents, you can tell like they look like their birth parents too.
Right.
Totally.
But yeah, it's fun. They do kind of look like each other, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Like on our Instagram, so Open Adoption Project or at Open Adoption Project, we have tons of pictures with all of like our birth family members and our family, like our biological family members. So anyone who's watching this can go there and check it out.
That's awesome. Yes, and I will tag you guys for sure. So what made you guys go this is what I wanted to ask, the open adoption route? Because with my family, it was closed. Obviously, it was international, but I don't know, that just like warms my heart more than anything because it's sometimes hard growing up as an adoptee and you're not 100% sure why you were given up for adoption. Obviously, you learn that later in life, but like to be able to have that instant connection with their birth families, I just think that's something that like is just so valuable as an adoptee. But at the same time, you guys are their parents and they know that. Like, you know, there's something I read the other day that like adoptees truly can love as many families as possible. It's not, you know, I have to love my birth parents because they gave me up and I love my adoptive, like that's not how it is. Like I have to explain to my kids all the time, grandma and grandpa are my mom and dad. You know, my birth mom is in Colombia, but grandma and grandpa are my mom and dad. So what made you guys go the adoption route or the open adoption route?
So honestly, we had no idea what open adoption was until we went to that first orientation meeting and they talked about open adoption and we both were just kind of like, what? This sounds terrifying. I mean, I think our first response was, right? We had never heard of it. So we were just like, what? But luckily we were able to hear all of these different panels where birth parents spoke and adoptees spoke, and we got a lot less scared of it as we learned more before any of our kids were born. And that helped a lot. And then of course, as we met the different expectant parents and birth parents over time and built relationships with them and realized these aren't scary people. They're choosing this for their child. They're not going to like come and try to take them, or there's nothing scary. Like it's not a scary thing. These are people who love our kids with their all, just like we do. And so it's just going to be more good.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to thinking about what's best for them. Like we've always planned on telling them they were adopted, right? So they know that is part of their story. From little kids, we've been reading books about adoption and they've known them. And so it's just been part of our family culture. But it's really sweet to see experiences. For example, yesterday, our daughter's birth mom was here. We were celebrating 10 years since
the first Valentine's Day where they told us that they were going to share with us. Yeah.
And my daughter, she's so funny, but
she's hilarious.
I got this perfect picture. I'll post that on our Instagram too, but where our daughter was talking about this little boy she has a crush on at school, and she's like almost 10, and she's like, well, who's that? And I'm like, who is that? And she's like, whispers in her birth mom's ear, my boyfriend. And there's this perfect moment where she's just like,
it's like her, it's in the moment where she's whispering.
So I'll post that picture, but just to capture some of those moments where, talking about their first boyfriend, not boyfriend, but I'm like, she's not having a boyfriend, she's 10. But from that to like sending a video of our baby like starting to crawl to his birth mom and just sharing those experiences together is just super sweet.
It warms my heart because I know of a lot of experiences that are not that way, where either, birth parents completely shut out, want nothing to do. Like there's been a couple interviews that they have tried to find them, and birth parents don't want anything to do with them. So it just makes my heart like so happy that like with every single one of your kids, they've had that opportunity and they know it was done out of love. It was 100% done out of love. And I know that can be hard because when I started finding my birth family journey like 3 years ago, and people watched it all unfold over social media, it was hard because there's some people who I'm friends with who they're like, well, if Melena can find, and it happens and it ends like magical and happy, then I can. And a lot of them, it just like was roadblocks. And I'm just like, because, the misconception of like, it always doesn't turn out beautiful. I'm one of those rare ones where it did. It was 3 months till I found them, all this crazy stuff. But like,
and then
so much.
Adoptee. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. No, you're good.
I was going to say, I think, some adoptees like have this picture of what it will look like when they connect. And we have several friends who've found their birth parents, and it's not always what, they're hoping for. It's hard. And
and that is a great thing about having the grandparents involved too. I feel like it's kind of a backup.
And I mean, each of their stories is unique, and there are details that they understand, age appropriately. And as they grow up, we'll kind of help them understand more and more the details they need to know. And that's a kind of constant conversation that we have with each other, and how this keeps growing organically and still fostering the same amount of love. And
and I feel like the one thing that we need to be better about sharing more with prospective adoptive couples is just that it's not scary to have that open relationship, and to really try to encourage that if possible. I mean, obviously you don't control the whole relationship, but from our side, to do all we can to help our kids have as much openness as we can,
and to be genuine. Like if you feel like open adoption is like not something you want to do, don't tell birth parents that that's something you're considering, because if you mislead them or walk them down the wrong road, there are going to be major hurt feelings, and
your kid is going to find out someday.
So I mean, if it's something you're not super comfortable with, that's totally okay, because it's not right for everybody. But own that. And if there's a potential situation that comes up and a birth mom's like, I really would like to have it open, don't bend in the moment so it works out and then change back. You have to be comfortable with it from the beginning if that's the way you want to go. And we know that for some people that's not what is best for them or right for them. So
and you guys did research on it, which I think helps too, like drastically. And I mean, obviously you guys both felt comfortable with it, and it's totally different. And and that's like a huge thing with, I feel like with anybody, you don't want to go out and be rejected. Like, and so as an adoptee, when you're seeking, you don't want to go out and be rejected, and then there's that whole mess if you say yes to open, and then if you really want it closed, and then it just gets sticky. Like, so I think that's great advice. Like, do your heart feels, just because you guys have had, and again, you guys have had amazing experience, and it makes me so happy because everything, like, you guys are so blessed, and everybody's just so blessed that's involved in your life, and it's just wonderful. Like, it's so wonderful, and I love it. Is there anything else that you guys want to share?
One more thing that I feel like we should throw out there. We have been super blessed, and we have really great relationships. I would just add that it's like any family relationship. Like, our families that we grew up in sometimes drive us nuts, and sometimes we have bumps with birth family too, and it's okay. Like they're family, and we can work through it, and it's not a big deal. But just to remember that all family has its bumps.
Yeah, just like anyone you genuinely love or care about, you're never going to see eye to eye 100% on everything.
Right.
And you care about the relationship more than whatever that thing is, and so you make it work.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. So
I think also we would just say that we're open books, and I mean, we've shared a lot of our story, but there's so much more. So if people have questions, they are more than welcome to message us.
Yeah.
And we're happy to answer questions or anything.
No, that's amazing. And that's wonderful. And I love it. And I will for sure tag you guys, and then I'll tag your page when I post your video so they can go straight to your page and check it out too. But seriously, I just want to say thank you so much for taking some time and doing this with me. Like there's so much I love doing these, and I probably am so repetitive to people that watch these every week, but I seriously love doing these because I learned so much from, there's just so much to learn, you know, from different perspectives. Because I was telling my husband, I'm like, what do you think about adoption? And he's like, and I'm like, oh, okay. You know, and I get it. And I think that's great. Exactly. You have to be on the same mindset, because you can't, I mean, and that's just supposed to be marriage anyway. You can't be like right all over the place. So seriously, thank you so much for taking some time out of your night. I'm glad your kids stayed asleep.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, my little guy popped in. I was like, go.
That's okay.
It's all good. So, and I will tag you guys, and anybody has any questions, I'll have them, hit you guys up.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.